It should be recalled that Israel's greatest king originally reigned in Hebron, the city that the first Israelite entered about 800 years before King David. Jewish history begins in Hebron. It would be a grave error not to establish a growing, thriving Jewish community in Hebron, sister city and forerunner of Jerusalem, within the shortest possible period of time. David Ben-Gurion. Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto the land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and be thou a blessing. Arise, walk through the land in the length of it, and in the breadth of it, for unto thee will I give it. And Abram moved his tent, and came and dwelt by the olive trees of Mamre, which are in Hebron, and built there an altar unto the Lord. And Abraham hearkened unto Ephron, and Abraham weighed to Ephron the silver which he had named in the hearing of the children of Heth, 400 shekels of silver. And after this Abraham buried Sarah his wife in the cave of the field of Machpelah before Mamre, the same in Hebron, in the land of Canaan. The tree continues to grow, its roots spreading beneath the ground concealed from view, nurturing it and granting it life. Denial of these roots would destroy the tree's vitality. Moses sent 12 spies to check out the land of Canaan. 10 returned bearing bad tidings that the land floweth with milk and honey, but they feared its inhabitants, claiming that the people are fierce and the cities fortified and would not be able to overcome them. Only Caleb ben Yefunah, who went as far as Hebron and prostrated himself over the graves of our ancestors, was bestowed with inner strength and fortitude. He announced, "We should go up at once and possess it, for we are well able to overcome it."
After the children of Israel experienced so much wandering and suffering, King David began to rule his people. He established his kingdom in Hebron. It is here that he communes with our patriarchs and matriarchs and is graced with the powerful faith, love, and favor vital to any successful monarch. 7.5 years later, he ascends from Hebron to rule in Jerusalem. For it is only from Hebron that the integral kingdom of Israel can arise.
At the edge of the field was a cave. Abraham, with divine perception, could see a magnificent light emanating from this cave. This is why he insisted on purchasing this site alone as a final resting place for his wife, Sarah. For thousands of years, Jews have come here to pray at the graves of their ancestors. 2 millennia ago, during the Second Temple period, King Herod erected a monumental structure at the cave of Machpelah that remains to this day. Here, Jews would gather to pray. The building's architectural style is identical to that of the temple walls. Some 1,100 years later, the Crusaders established a church and fortress at the Hall of Isaac and Leah. When the Mamelukes conquered Hebron, they turned the entire structure into a mosque, adding minarets to the walls and additional structures alongside the cave, according to the complex its current appearance. Jews were prohibited from entering the cave of Machpelah, their presence limited to the 7th step. Undaunted, the Jews continued to gather at the site from all over the world, praying silently at the foot of the 7th step. Among them was Maimonides, who celebrated this day as a holiday of joy and thanksgiving. Sephardic and Ashkenazic communities begin to form in this ancestral city. Jews dwell side by side with their Muslim neighbors for hundreds of years. Jewish culture develops within the Jewish quarter near the cave of Machpelah. When the neighborhood can no longer accommodate the influx of Jews returning to their homeland, we build Beit Romano, Beit Hadassah, Beit Schneerson, and other homes outside the quarter's confines. Yeshivot are established, including Chabad, Slobodka, and others. On Saturday, the 18th day of the month of Av, in the Jewish year 5689, known as Karpat, August 1929, incited Arabs attack and brutally slaughter 67 of their Jewish neighbors, including elderly people, women, and children. This tragic event severs the continuity of Jewish life in Hebron until the Six-Day War. Under Jordanian rule, Hebron becomes a training camp from which terrorist attacks were launched. The Avraham Avinu synagogue was demolished and turned into a goat pen. Jewish tombstones were defiled and used to build a wholesale market and public latrines. Jews around the world continue reciting the prayers of their ancestors. Following the liberation of Jerusalem, the Israel Defense Forces advanced to Hebron, and Chief Chaplain Rabbi Shlomo Goren raises the Israeli flag over the cave of Machpelah.
We came here to reestablish Jewish presence in Hebron. After accepting the compromises at the Park Hotel, the military compound, and Kiryat Arba, we saw that Jewish Hebron remained in ruins. In the spring of the year 1979, we woke up our children at 3 a.m. and moved into Hebron. Our destination, Beit Hadassah, was abandoned with no water, electricity, or even windows. We waded through refuse up to our knees. 2 weeks later, the army blockaded the building, but we were undeterred. We decided to stay, and with God's help, our resolve and determination proved successful. We suffered some cases of hepatitis, but after considering the situation, we realized that just as the Jews did not leave when malaria struck in Gedera and Hadera 80 years ago, we will overcome all adversity and remain in Hebron. A year later, some yeshiva students were coming to visit us and cheer us up one Friday night. They were ambushed by terrorists, and 6 were shot and killed. Despite this tragic disaster, the incident marked the beginning of a new policy.
Beit Hadassah was restored and renovated, followed by Beit Kastel, Beit Snerson, Beit Chasson, and Beit Romano that now houses Yeshivat Shavei Hebron. Admot Yishai was built at Tel Rameda, and the Jewish neighborhood developed around the Avraham Avinu synagogue, site of the ancient Jewish quarter.
The Avraham Avinu synagogue is a 400-year-old structure. It was planned very carefully and precisely with great attention to detail. The houses we planned accord residents all the comforts of modern living, along with the atmosphere of a home in the old city of Hebron. All new construction conforms and harmonizes with the local texture, reflecting understanding and respect for the neighborhood surroundings. I am now working on a complex of new buildings to be constructed on these ruins.
אנחנו מטיילים בחברון העתיקה על הטבע.
We are walking through Tel Hebron, ancient Hebron, among the ancient walls and the olive trees, from which the cave of Machpelah and the Herodian structure above it could be seen.
עד רגליה לצורתה היום. עץ הזית
An
המדהים.
incredible olive tree, the oldest tree in the world, stands at Tel Hebron. Although apparently hollow, its base is steadily growing, having reached a diameter of 4 meters, or 4,000 millimeters. Dividing this figure by 2, we obtain the approximate age of the tree, 2,000 years. This means that it was planted towards the end of the Second Temple period.
We stay here by the ancient walls when we began to find the really entrance of the forefathers, Abraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, in the mothers, Sarah, Rivka, and Leah. Here began, rising up, the Jewish nation, the Jewish history of 4,000 years.